All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. Our show for Thursday. So good to have everybody in the mix. Come on now. Feel good. The news is not so good in many ways, so it is a delight to be surrounded by some positive energy. And specifically, of course, I'm talking about Kim.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
Hello.
Kim, how are you? Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Kim,
the positive energy of the show? That's a problem.
You...
That's not going to work.
The commish is here. Albert, who is the producer, and we have some stuff today that we have been sitting on and we need to get to. A couple of anniversary greetings. You know, it's our 1-year anniversary of the show, so we're very excited about that. Having come from radio and then moved this to the YouTube platform, things are click-clacking along, and that's pretty cool. So, you know, we'll get to all of that today. And
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
I want to touch on the deputy whip and this constitutional lawyer from Louisiana. I told her the other day that he's a deep red dude. Think alt-right. And I'll give you a couple of his specific positions on things that are now just coming out. I mean, we talked about this the other day, but now it's finally finding its way into the public discourse. Sadly, it will share the public discourse with the most American thing of all, which is mass shooting. And dude walks in with his assault weapon of war, and he slaughters a bunch of people, goes to another place in Maine. This all happened in a town in Maine with fewer than 40,000 people. And he slaughters a bunch of people there. Then
18 dead and 13 wounded in this attack.
I will double back to it in a moment. I also just want to acknowledge that we'll touch on today a bit of what's going on with the Gaza situation and the Israeli response to the massacre there. And there's some specifics that haven't changed, and then there's some specifics that have changed. In fact, a few of the specifics that we have touched on in relation to this, I think do bear underscoring, you know, kind of emphasizing, and you're now beginning to see some of this stuff that we've talked about, specifically the reluctance to go in pell-mell into Gaza on the part of the Israeli military, relating to much of the way that Hamas has essentially anticipated an Israeli response and likely will do everything from booby trap to lie in wait, in effect, for the Israeli military. This, while there are hostages who are being held. The whole thing is mega troubling, and you know, it also involves well-known terrorist organizations, and it's being, I think, and this is the problem with the Middle East generally, painted in black and white terms. I mean, it's such a nuanced situation. There's so much history, and there are, even within the snapshot of today, without taking stock of the history, there is so much wrapped up in the texture of everything, everyone, and every organization and element associated with this in the Middle East. So we'll get to that as well. I've got a law and disorder today that is spilling over.
What?
And speaking of law, one of the things I'll just touch on is the Clarence Thomas gift. I mean, he was essentially gifted a loan, okay? And then when he didn't repay the whole loan, it was forgiven. We all want a loan like that.
I come from regular stock.
I know that when they said the loan was satisfied, right? They didn't say the loan was paid off. They just said it was satisfied. What does that mean? It means don't worry about paying that. It's all right. Oh, and by the way, I've got this case coming up. If you could You could vote in my favor. That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. So we will talk a bit about that with David Katz. That's what I wanted to get to in the 11 o'clock hour in the noon hour on the West Coast, and on the 3 o'clock hour on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We will get to David Katz, the constitutional lawyer, the former federal prosecutor. He is a brilliant defense attorney now, and he will weigh in on that. But that's just one of the things. But I do want to mention, I'm going to touch on it, and then we'll revisit it with Katz. But this is a week where Katz can weigh in on so many things. Remember, this is flip week, right? You had Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Michael Cohen. Who am I leaving out? I'm leaving out Meadows, of course. All right. So we look at this testimony and likely cooperation on the part of all those Trumpies, all of whom were peddling election lies and who are facing disbarment.
Chesbro, you forgot Chesbro.
Chesbro, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
4 of them this week. Flip-flop.
It's been quite the week. Yeah. It's the Hollywood squares of flippers. They should just put them all in, the old Hollywood squares thing.
Yes.
I just would like that.
And next we have testimony from...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love that. Where's my Hollywood square? Yeah, just like that.
Today, Cohen testifying, yes.
Yeah. It's Flip Week on the Feud. How about it for Sidney Powell? Kenneth Chesborough. Jenna Ellis. And
Mark Meadows.
That's right, Mark Meadows. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You know why that's so funny? It's because it's so damn delicious.
Yeah. Well, it's also so the way stuff is now. You know what I mean? I thought that Jenna Ellis, we played it for you, the testimony in court where she cries
I'm so sorry to the American
I'm a Christian,
people.
I'm a this and I mean, she was just throwing everything up against the wall to see what sticks. But the reason that was stupid is that she'd already made her plea. I mean, I don't know what she was looking to get from that moment, except playing to the public, maybe. But the crying thing, she had once recommended, I think, that when in doubt in a courtroom, you should try to cry if you can. I think she literally... Somebody Google that, and you can tell me. I think that's correct. Jenna Ellis, she played in that moment like she's like a kid who is just stepping out of line for the first time. She's 38 years old.
Yeah.
So
I wonder how many speeding tickets she's gotten out of by turning on the waterworks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to, officer. I'm sorry.
I mean, when in doubt, do the crying and see what happens.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It just might work.
I didn't even realize I was going that fast.
Yeah. I'm late. My parents are my dad's not well. So I guess the other thing I wanted to mention to you that also in the second hour, again, 3 o'clock hour in the East, it'll be the noon hour in the West. We will get to Belinda Waymouth, who is back after, I think, a month away with It's the Planet Stupid. We talk about issues going on in the planet. It's not always global climate change or the climate crisis, although there is certainly stuff that's kind of wild related to the climate crisis. I mentioned yesterday the supercharging of that tropical weather system, that tropical storm that Kim had in her news yesterday that hit Mexico as a hurricane, as a Category 5 hurricane. 9 hours prior to that, it had been a tropical storm. In less than a day, it goes from tropical storm to Category 5 hurricane. And the reason for that is because of the insanely warm temperatures of the water. And this is something that we'll maybe touch on with Belinda, but she'll be here in the second hour. Albert, did you have anything for us before we proceed, sir?
No, we're previewed. We got that's what our show is going to be about.
Nope. We're previewed.
Albert, thank you.
I can't tell whether Albert's just sort of just when I think Albert's disinterested, he actually comes through with something really cool. I don't think he's disinterested. I think that's just his style,
Yeah.
It's kind of laid back, like, no.
Nothing
And we're
ruffles
previewed.
him.
Yeah, pretty good. So, all right. We love having Albert here.
The
love
bar has
having
been
Kim
met,
here.
Mark. The bar has been met.
Yeah,
so.
I forgot. It's C's got
I would
degrees.
just say
The Mark Thompson Show.
What's that, Kim?
I would just say he's not easily excitable,
Yeah, he's a laid-back character.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And now, let me start with this mass shooting in Maine. Then I'll tell you one of the weird things about this that is such a sign of the times, beyond the sign of the times, that the assault weapon bearing Robert Card is his name, was all about. Albert's got I think a setup piece, and then I'll share this other information with you. Go ahead, Albert, please.
This morning in Maine, the race is on to find a killer who's still on the run.
Multiple victims for an active shooter in the town of Lewiston.
After horrific shootings at 2 businesses left up to 20 people dead, according to law enforcement sources who say there may be up to 50 people injured. Police searching for a person of interest, 40-year-old Robert Card, saying he's armed and dangerous.
If people see him, they should not approach Card or make contact with him in any way.
Local police also releasing these photos of a suspect holding an assault rifle and this white SUV that authorities say was found nearby in the town of Lisbon. On Wednesday night, local officials say the gunman attacked 2 locations about 4 miles apart, Schmiggy's Bar and Grill and Spare Time Recreation, a bowling alley which was full of young people.
And tonight was youth night, so the place was just crawling with teenagers. So we suspect and fear that many of the victims there are going to be young teens.
A police intelligence bulletin revealing more information about the person of interest, saying Card was trained as a firearms instructor and believed to be in the Army Reserve. That release also says he recently reported mental health issues, including hearing voices and threats to shoot up the National Guard base in Maine. As the community waits and grieves, Leroy Walker says he hasn't heard from his son, who was at work as a manager at Schmiggy's.
My son is dead, and I know he's dead. I know it as well as I know. I'm standing here telling you because he's not here and he's not at any other hospital.
Anxious residents waiting outside a local hospital, hoping to hear any updates about loved ones.
As one can imagine, it's your worst nightmare.
And we're also learning from a law enforcement bulletin that the person of interest checked into a mental health facility in the summer for about 2 weeks. Meantime, here on the ground, utter shock. Keep in mind, Maine is a state with little serious crime, just 29 homicides for the entire state all of last year. We've learned from the White House, President Biden has been briefed on the incident as we await another news conference later today. Hoda?
Yeah, that's the situation there. And so I guess he's still out there, although it would seem to me that he likely turned the weapon on himself. I think that's what we're going to find out. I mean, I look, I don't know, but he's missing, and, there are all these woods out there in Maine where he could go and off himself. It's a tragic incident, again, in a country that has a death grip, literally, on these weapons. These weapons of war, they don't belong in citizens' hands. If you're worried about the government coming for you, no matter how big your weapon, no matter how many shots you can fire and how many guns you can hold, the government will always have more. So that doesn't make sense. If it's for personal protection, that doesn't make sense either. They're unwieldy weapons, easy to have an accident with them. And more to the point, what is the public doing with a weapon of war? Even if it was an effective self-defense tool, I don't see why, you're not allowed to have, grenade launchers, right? You're not allowed to have these shoulder-fired weapons.
Well, why not, Mark? That's my constitutional right.
I mean, exactly how the Constitution has become perverted in this way that's killing us. I mean, it's the leading cause of death among children. My God, doesn't that say something? All of those sweet souls taken out by this guy, and now we get to a couple of other things. There is no red flag law in Maine, right, that would involve taking away a guy's weapons if he's mentally unstable. He's so mentally unstable that he checked into a mental health care facility, complained of hearing voices. I mean, what more do you need to take away someone's weapon? But not in America. You can take away his driver's license. You can take away his kids. But you cannot take away his gun. That is where we are in the United States of guns. It's insanity. But, you know, how many times have we had this conversation? And meantime, look at our legislators. Look at those who've been bought and paid for by the gun lobby. Remember, 60% of Americans would like a ban on assault weapons. 90% of Americans polled want background checks. Both things aren't even brought onto the floor because of legislators, largely GOP, bought and paid for by the gun lobby. So what do? They wear their AK-47 pins. Is that what they are? AK-47 assault rifle pins.
Yeah.
So, look, man, it's a bad brag. Those pins are disgusting. I guess, to try to spin it in some, is that supposed to be freedom or something? George Santos and Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the rest of them with their gold assault weapon pins that they wear in Congress to send a message. One of them brought a weapon in. Here's a picture. Look at these two. Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you're listening and not watching, they're both holding assault rifles. And they're smiling. This is a way to assert the fact that they are Second Amendment true believers. And one of them, Boebert, is wearing one of those pins. Anyway, I'm disheartened. I think the President of the United States, Biden, was saying there should be a ban on assault weapons, and he's right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Biden haters, dude is right.
And I love that he didn't come out and say thoughts and prayers. He said, this is awful, we're thinking of you, and action is needed.
I mean, it's so normal that, Trump never came out and said anything after them. Obama came out so much that it was like, hitting F7 on the keyboard with, with the basic boilerplate remarks associated with an assault killing of the sort that we're seeing in Maine and across America. I'm disgusted by it, and you should be too, as an American or as people living in America, that we have to worry about this. It's utterly crazy, and it's become the most American thing.
No, people in other countries look at us and go, well, you guys what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's not safe. You're not safe.
We have this thing that we do in America, and then I'll move off of this, but we talk about it from time to time, the myth of American exceptionalism, right? We are all raised with that, we represent the best ideals. We have however you want to spin it or talk about it. We have a Judeo-Christian underpinning all of our laws. We have, the morality associated with our country. When we go fight a war, it's a moral war, Slowly you realize that's not true at all. And
you mean God's not on our side?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Thank you.
Damn it.
God's on the side of the smart people.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Yeah. We got to get a grip on this. But again, you've got, for all the reasons I mentioned, bought and paid for legislators. They will not change their position on this. They won't even vote on it. So we'll keep you posted on that Maine situation, but that's the latest, and the guy is still at large, and all of those sweet souls are gone. I'm sorry to say.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The story on this new House Speaker, it's coming out now in a bigger way. What we had talked about, was it yesterday? The days run together. But we talked about the fact that he was a deep South and is a deep South red state conservative with all of that. I called it stereotypical position on every issue attached to him. So, years fighting gays, fighting women's reproductive rights. He is an election denier, right? He is, you kind of can think, well, they voted this guy in. He must be one of these people who's been able to bridge the various extreme parts of the GOP, right? Those who, don't want any money sent for any more wars. They want to shut down the government. They want to, the pro Roe v. Wade overturning crew, and then those who are more moderate. No, he is actually a bone thrown to the hard right, and they got on board. We say, well, how come the moderates voted him in then? Because, and this is something else we spoke of on the show, that they're just fatigued. If you stay at it long enough, they're going to go, damn it, we got stuff to do here. I'm not going to fight about this anymore. Just, put Johnson in and let's just get going. So that's why I was saying it'll be interesting to see what his actual priorities are. One should be to keep the government open, right? Because the government, the expiration date, the shelf life on our country in terms of being funded is November 17th. So we have to do something to continue to fund the government beyond that point. And yet, as you're well aware, the funding, where it's going, where it's earmarked, what we support, Ukraine money, Israel money, etc., social program money, that's all embattled. That's all being talked about. Those are pitched battles in the House. So we'll see what actually happens. But this dude is, he's talked about, he's all right. He's talked about gays and the fact that gay rights, something that should be opposed.
I read that he wrote a law, tried to get a law passed that homosexual sex should be illegal.
Yeah, he says there's clearly no right to sodomy in the Constitution. That is his.
You know what that means to me? That means he's gay.
That's
what that means. If you usually, okay, if you don't want to think about gay sex, then go on about your business with your own straight sex or whatever kind of sex you're having, and don't look at what the neighbors are doing, right? Most of us can just go along in our lives and keep our eyes on our own paper. Not this guy. He's got to write a law trying to make it illegal, which means he's probably so much thinking about it all the time and have such self-hatred. Totally gay. If you care enough to write a law to make it illegal, gay.
Man,
not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying I think thou doth protest too much.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. Well, he says clearly there's no right to sodomy in the Constitution, and the rights of privacy in the home have never placed all activity with the home outside the bounds of the criminal law. This is, again, I'm quoting here. So he's saying, look, you can't do whatever you want in your home just because you have a right to privacy. So if you're involved in homosexual acts, we have a right to arrest you. I mean, if we could change these laws to the way they should be. By the way, the first 20 minutes of this show completely will demonetize this episode. Let's see, homosexual acts, massacre, guns. Is there
anything else we could say? Yeah. Any other buzzwords that
we really need your super stickers today? All right. Before his congressional career, he wore multiple hats. He was a talk radio host, a conservative talk radio host, a columnist. He's a college professor.
What class is that?
He's a lawyer. He probably taught some law. I believe it was law. Constitutional law, right? He was, and this is how they do it. He was instrumental, as Kim says, in drafting that legislation, the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. That was in 2022. Never brought to the floor. Would have prevented the use of federal money to develop, implement, facilitate, or fund any sexually oriented program, event, or literature for kids. And that's, of course, widely open to interpretation. That's the Don't Say Gay bill, right? Anyway, he's a...
whack job?
He's got an agenda that's hard, right? Yes.
That's really lovely the way you said that.
I don't like to call people names, as you know.
Well, I don't have
but
a problem with
completely, he's a loathsome person, and we identified him as a loathsome person right away. We were never, there's this thing like, Little known Mike Johnson. Take little known? Really? Okay. The New York Times said little. Where's my New York Times? Hold on a second.
And how many heartbeats away is he
Here
from
it
the
is.
presidency? Is he like third in line? Yeah.
Look at that. I know it's a newspaper. That's the, but can you see? Party
Yeah,
rallies around Johnson, a little known Louisianan.
No. Yeah.
I don't know. He's known enough for us. So we'll watch. But as I say, if he can keep the government open, then at least he's done something that the last speaker really was unable to do. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have what's that?
I was just going to say he's loathsome enough that even the Freedom Caucus people in the House decided he's okay. We'll get behind him. Him we can tolerate.
Thank you. That's exactly right. It was a bone thrown to the right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to mention some good news because I know that the news can be kind of a bummer. So here is some good news.
What?
I know. I'm sorry. It's all. The Autoworkers have reached a deal with Ford, and I think they reached a deal with one other automaker. This came in last night, and I think there's been another one overnight. Am I wrong about that, Albert? Can you check on that? But anyway, they've reached the deal with Ford. At minimum, that will be the template for moving forward with a deal with others, and it's a good deal. I think they got a 25% pay increase, and Ford had offered 9% when they started, just to remind you. And assembly line workers will get 11% up after ratifying this, almost equal to all of the wage increases workers have seen since 2007. And I think if you look at the details of this, it's pretty impressive. Even temporary workers will get raises over 150%. And retirees will get annual bonuses. It's again, it's the beginning of what will likely be, it's the beginning of the end of the strikes, I suspect, that will be hitting the auto industry. Once you make that deal with Ford, you can craft others like it for Stellantis and what's the other one? It's Ford, it's General Motors.
And Stellantis, yeah.
Yeah, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. So congratulations to the United Auto Workers for at least that piece of news on this Thursday. When we come back, I've got some major law and disorder. The cup runneth over, and we'll get to that next. Smash the like button like a boss, if you would.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Throw us a thumbs up. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Residents, as Mark was saying, in the town of Lewiston, and here's this town. Look how small this town is. 40,000 people in Maine. Residents in this town of Lewiston, Maine, continue to shelter in place while the search goes on for a suspected mass shooter. Police say 18 people are dead, 13 injured, including 3 of them in critical condition after last night's shooting inside of a bowling alley and also a bar. An arrest warrant has been issued for 40-year-old Robert Card. He is considered armed and dangerous. And flags at the U.S. Capitol are at half-staff to honor the victims of that shooting. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who issued the order for the flag, said the nation grieves with the people of Lewiston. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell called the shooting senseless violence. Unrest at colleges and universities over the Israel-Hamas war is resulting now in increased police presence on campuses. This is a picture of what's going on in Gaza. But here at colleges and universities, we know the NYPD announced uniformed officers at all New Jersey City colleges and universities. This comes after Jewish students at Cooper Union College were forced to take shelter in a library while a group of pro-Palestinian demonstrators chanted "Free Palestine" and banged on locked doors. Meanwhile, in Florida, from what I understand, state colleges and universities are trying to disband Palestinian student groups as if they have no right to free speech. So this is heating up here in America. There is a Colorado judge rejecting former President Trump's attempt to block a lawsuit that would keep him off of the 2024 ballot. Yeah, this is still underway. The lawsuit argues Trump shouldn't be eligible for the ballot based on the 14th Amendment forbidding insurrectionists from holding public office. That trial is now scheduled to start on October 30th. And as Mark mentioned, one down, two of Detroit's big three remaining, the United Auto Workers Union reaching a tentative agreement with Ford. It would become official if ratified by UAW members. Negotiations with GM and Stellantis continue. Workers remain on strike against those two automakers. Another city waiting to find out if it'll get help from the California Highway Patrol. Governor Gavin Newsom already assigned officers to San Francisco and to Oakland this year, and now he's being asked to do the same for the city of Antioch. The two state lawmakers sent him a letter yesterday saying public safety is at risk with crime up 30% and only 40 officers out patrolling in Antioch. The rest are on leave as investigations continue into a racist text scandal. New push into stopping soaring rent prices across California. Organizers with Justice for Renters Act gathered outside the state capitol yesterday with more than 730,000 letters from voters. They're all asking the governor to support a rent control ballot initiative eligible to appear on next year's ballot. If approved, it would allow local governments to set limits on how much rent can be raised on housing. And shoppers beware, 4 California cities are listed among the worst for retail theft in the country. Los Angeles, number 1. The National Retail Federation found Oakland and San Francisco are the second most affected, Sacramento coming in 7th out of 10. Recent data shows the Bay Area saw the biggest jump in shoplifting rates last year, the state fighting back by giving counties more money to hire officers and make more arrests. You're going to love this one. Florida, best known for unusual predicaments. Soon, there will be an Olympic-style competition in honor of such Floridian circumstances. One of the events at the first ever Florida Man Games is called the Evading Arrest Obstacle Course.
Oh my
God. You know, because you got to show that you're really good at this in Florida. It features contestants chased by real police officers.
There's never been anything like this.
At the Florida Man Games. The competition is scheduled for February in St. Augustine. It's funny that real police officers are taking part in this. And lastly, I have a video to show you that Albert's going to help me out
there
with.
must be some mistake.
No, it's the Florida Man Games. Mm-hmm. There were some really, really high winds around Great Falls, Montana on Tuesday, and apparently blew in piles of tumbleweeds so high that it covered houses. Check this out. Look at that house. You could just barely see the roof.
Wow.
Yeah, these tumbleweeds whipped into this neighborhood, of course, you know, getting caught in the areas in front of homes, in the pathways. That's a lot of tumbleweeds. Oh. They were stacked high against houses, covering yards. The tumbleweeds covered sidewalks, some piles rising so high they flowed over the roofs of homes, causing them to nearly disappear under the mountain of pickly beige brush. That's how windy it was. 65 to 87 miles per hour.
And this is where?
Great Falls, Montana.
Wow.
Look at that. I think tumbleweeds are so foreign to us in the Bay Area that when I see them, it's just like, oh...
I mean,
can almost hear the music.
I have to say, it's like a B movie, you know, like you might see at Halloween. It's perfect for this time of year.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, honestly, we had Jeff Dixon in yesterday talking about different horror and scary movies. And, you know, the premises are all, you know, different, but some of them are. What was the one that was the thing where the sludge comes up and it eats people? What is that, Albert? You know the one I'm talking about?
Are you trying to say these are man-eating tumbleweeds?
I'm saying that this is exactly how Act 1 of a horror movie starts. You know what I mean? Or Act 2. I don't know.
I was
but some
pricked
act.
by the tumbleweed, and all of a sudden I got this flesh-eating bacteria, and then we turned into zombies.
What was it? Somebody somebody will know. Albert doesn't. The Blob. Thank you.
Blob,
It's the
yeah,
Blob.
and
Yeah. Thank you, Tom, Donald, Phineas. Yeah, the Blob. But Julie's right. It's Attack of the Tumbleweeds. But, it would be, you need to put the word evil in it or something, or tumbleweed, evil. We can work with it. And then we say it's based on a true story, and then we all get rich. There you go.
We'll write the script.
You're welcome.
We'll write it, and we'll do it live.
You're welcome.
This report is sponsored by,
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah,
it'll be a
right.
radio
Exactly.
play here on the Mark Thompson Show. It started with the wind whistling high in the mountains. This report sponsored by...
Tumbleweed had been with them for years. But one day, the evil tumbleweed was coming.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Oh,
What
your
happened
voice.
to little Johnny? His mother
Mommy,
wants to know.
I can't find you in the tumbleweeds.
I can hear you, John, but I can't see you.
The evil tumbleweed.
They have no tumbleweeds at Tenuta Vineyards. Look at the green vineyards. It's
And my
fresh,
Tenuta
lovely.
people. What up, Tenuta?
Yeah, it's right. This is the flight of wine that you can sip at Tenuta. Look at that. They have so many varietals. It's just the most fun place. And you get 10% off across the board. And I'm telling you, that Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red is amazing. So check him out. Check in with Rich. You have to say... smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah, that's the phrase that pays, everybody. Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your
when you call
iron
Tenuta
rod.
Vineyards in Livermore.
Yeah, and don't be shy about it. I mean, really let him have it. And call him at 925
iron rod.
699-4576, 925-699-4576, and you get your 10% off because you deserve it. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, you told me you wanted to play something here. Is that right? Oh, yeah, I remember now. Oh, I didn't. Oh, damn it.
Well, let me tell you a story. You see, Mark Thompson had a dream, and that dream was to host his own radio show, which he did for a little while, until one day, a year ago, that dream was suddenly taken away. And so, Mark did what any man in his position would do. He marched himself down to the thrift store, picked up a few web cameras circa 1997, an old Fisher-Price microphone, locked himself in the pantry, and went to work.
How dare you?
And we are so very grateful that you did. Congratulations, Mark, on your one-year anniversary from your friend Morgan Freeman.
Oh.
And remember, get busy living or get busy buying a better camera. I mean, come on now.
Get busy buying a better camera. I love it. Thank you, Morgan.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, we have to adjust the hymnal, I'm afraid, everyone, because Belinda, who we're excited to have back, supposed to be with us next hour, but suddenly needs to be on now. So, I think it's kind of a diva move, to be honest. Don't you agree, Kim? I can't believe that Belinda thinks that she can get away with this crap. I mean,
it's Belinda Weymouth. We've been without her for a month. I'll do anything to have her.
Don't defend her with this move, trying to Bigfoot her way back in.
Bring that woman on whenever she wants to be here.
She has that. Mark, I'm so sorry. I have to go on now because I have another appointment. How dare you? How dare you, Belinda? It's the planet, stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet.
Earth. A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid. No. It's the planet stupid.
She is our guide for It's the Planet Stupid, Belinda Waymouth. Hi, Belinda. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. And Kim, thank you for defending me. I super appreciate that.
I have your back, sister. I'm on you. I'm with you.
Thank
Yes.
you. You have my back. And Mark, thank you for doing such a lovely imitation of me. I truly appreciate how well you got my accent. Come on, that's so great.
You people with accents, you come over here, you get anything you want. Everybody just caves for you. I treat you like anybody else on this show. It's great to have you back.
Oh, well, it's wonderful to be back. And look, I am so sorry. I can't blame jet lag anymore because I've been home for a few days, but I couldn't believe, yes, I'm on old time. So I was like, I'm going to be there. And then when I'm an hour early, it's
all right. We've moved on. Don't worry about it. You're on now, and our time is short, so I don't want to spend too much about that because we are excited that you're back. So tell us where we're going today, what you have for us. I, tried to fill in some gaps along the way with various things going on the planet. It's definitely, it's been a busy month or so since you visited last.
Yes, it really has been. Well, there are a couple of things. Of course, I want to straight away get to the fantastic, innovative, things that are happening and that are, going to.
Yeah, there's good stuff going on, right?
Yeah, there really is. And one of the things, this World Mosquito Program is pretty unbelievable and cool. When
it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Tell us about this. This is great, I think.
Well, okay, so mosquitoes are sort of the bane, of not, obviously, that we've got worse things going on, but mosquitoes are absolutely terrible. We have the Anopheles who bring us awful malaria. That's 240 million cases in 2020, 627,000 deaths. And then now with a warming planet, the range for the Aedes aegypti species, which bring us, horrible dengue and yellow fever, that's expanding. I mean, last year, France had their first endemic infestation of dengue. We've got it in Texas. We've got it in Florida. So the fact that scientists have worked out if they can inject the minute little eggs of this mosquito species with a parasitic bacteria called Wolbachia, it neutralizes the dengue fever parasite. And so a mosquito who's got Wolbachia in it, and it gets bred into them because, it gets into their eggs and then they grow up and they're an adult now with it, and then they're mating with other adults and they're passing it on to their offspring. But a mosquito with this special parasitic bacteria can bite one person with dengue fever and then bite the next, victim and not pass on the dengue fever. So huge, really, really huge. And what they found in Indonesia 3 years after introducing Wolbachia mosquitoes, dengue fever was down by 77% and hospitalizations fewer, down by 86%. So those are some pretty stunning results.
Well, and I think the amazing thing, isn't it, that, you can't, they've been fighting these mosquito populations for decades, I mean, centuries maybe, but I mean, in the modern era, it's all these pesticides that have been, had all these disgusting effects and environmental disastrous effects. And so there's no way, clearly, to beat back the mosquito population in any kind of substantial way. So as you say, these diseases spread. So this thing, which really represents technology meeting this moment, which, as you say, they take the eggs of the mosquitoes and they infect the eggs with this other thing that renders them unable to spread these diseases. It's brilliant. It's inspired, and they're doing it. This is the cutting edge technology that's going on. It's really terrific.
It's amazing. I mean, in Medellin, where they have in Colombia, they have this lab. They're producing 30 million of these mosquitoes a week. And, you get them out into these communities and they have all these incredible ways of doing it. I mean, there's one where they put the little eggs inside what looks like a vitamin capsule and they give it to people with the nutrients that it needs. And so they can, on their patios, be producing dengue neutralizing mosquitoes. They could be part of the solution. and they're dropping these mosquitoes in neighborhoods, via drones. And yes, it's clever, and it's really timely, because mosquitoes are just going to have a bigger and bigger range as our planet warms up, as we're seeing with this spread of dengue fever to places that didn't have it before. And it's really ghastly what it does. The side effects are horrible, just like malaria. So
it's a brutal illness and killer. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you say vitamin again?
Vitamin.
Thank you. That's all I just wanted that. Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome, Kim. You're welcome. And then the other, so there are a couple of other things to talk about. I know we've got limited time. What happened this week with Hurricane Otis was terrible. That you go from something that's a tropical storm and suddenly it's a Category 5. And I know, Mark, you wanted to talk a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, and I mentioned it before. I just think that it speaks to what we've talked about, which is the warming of the planet, but the warming of the waters, which are affecting migration patterns. They're affecting sea life, killing coral, doing all of these things. But I would say and remind people that the Earth transfers energy by taking heat from the ocean and moving it into the atmosphere. It's the biggest single way that the Earth balances energy, transfers energy. The single biggest energy transfer is associated with this heat exchange between the ocean and the atmosphere. And so that's what tropical weather systems are. And so as the warming of the waters continue, that heat exchange becomes even more, it's energy, it's just energy. The heat is just energy. And it becomes even more intense and amplified. And you end up with this insane, unprecedented in all of recorded history situation where something goes from tropical weather system to hurricane Category 5 in less than a day. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, it's really out of the movie Day After Tomorrow.
Well, it is. I mean, experts define a rapid intensification of a storm, when winds increase by 35 miles an hour over a 24-hour period. Well, with Otis, the winds increased by 115 miles per hour to a whopping 165 miles per hour in less than a day. And, the thing that you're talking about, there's so much energy in the system now. We've got an El Nino year, so that's pushing up temperatures. Our ocean temperatures are hotter. The atmosphere is hotter. And here's the thing. Warm air holds more moisture. I say this over and over again, and this is what we're seeing with these storms and these atmospheric rivers. And then warm water, as you're rightly pointing out, Mark, holds more energy. So you've got more water in the atmosphere, and the water is hotter, and so it's got more energy. And I forwarded you, Kim, the New York Times story, because it shows you a graph of how unbelievably off experts were predicting what was going to happen with Otis. They were saying, oh, well, this could go to a Category 1 storm. I mean, the models they couldn't keep up with it. And, and it intensified super close to shore. Normally it happens a bit further away. So, yeah, it's, there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of energy in our system.
We only have another minute or two, but I wonder if you can share. So, I mean, there's that. The good news of the mosquitoes and what, the way that they're in this innovative way beating back that mosquito population, the diseased mosquito population. Then the undeniable news associated with the tropical weather systems. What else do you have?
Okay, so there's a really cool thing. This actually started, the first one ever was in Nova Scotia, but this is happening in abandoned coal mines, which, as we know, powered the Industrial Revolution. They still are in developing countries, but now these abandoned mines that have been naturally flooded are being converted into these incredible geothermal heating and cooling systems without all the toxic carbon and mercury emissions that we got from coal. So what happened was Scotland, scientists put down all these probes into these abandoned mines that had filled up with water to see what was happening with the water. And what they found was that deep down, the geothermal systems of the earth had heated that water up a lot. And then they used that hot water to then heat the homes and buildings that were near these coal fields. And in Britain, a quarter of the population live on top of, or near these abandoned coal mines. So you've got this sort of, target audience right there for this incredible green energy. And then there's the water at the top of the mine is still cold. Down below, the closer it is to the sort of the center of the earth, or the warm part of the earth where the geothermal energy is, that's heating up. So you can use that to heat homes and buildings when it's cold, and then you can use the cool water at the top to cool the homes in the summer when it's warm. And as we know, everywhere is getting warmer. So to have a natural, it's not a natural, but to have the natural systems of the earth working together, these floods that happen, and then the water being heated up by geothermal energy. And I'll tell you what's, so it's fantastic. And by the way, like I said, the first one happened in Nova Scotia. Now they're putting them in different cities and places or towns that are near these abandoned coal mines in Europe. And they're really, really going to go for it in Britain because they've got so many. And I don't know if anyone listening remembers the 80s, but in the 80s, Margaret Thatcher was very busy causing a lot of havoc in northeastern England, where she was just shutting down mines one after the other. And a lot of these areas have been depressed ever since economically. Well, now they're going to have a source of income as well as heat, because they're going to, heating and cooling, because they're going to reap the benefits, the profits from these abandoned coal mines. So that's kind of a cool and slightly ironic twist.
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre a little bit that this is all around coal mines. I mean, as you say, it's extraordinary. Harry says in the chat, geothermal is already being used for abandoned oil wells.
Yeah,
it is out there, of course. Yeah.
And it's sort of the thing that I often talk about, the low tech, high impact. I mean, this is low hanging fruit. These are right there, these abandoned coal mines. So if we can use something that was, a bad source of energy, and now it can become a good, green, clean source of energy. I mean, what a fantastic, turnaround. And it's with the geothermal energy that occurs naturally, in the earth. It's a win-win.
Wild, really wild. So you've actually given us some good news today, Belinda, which is kind of where you started on this show some time ago. You always brought good news, and then slowly the good news got crowded out by the crisis that we found ourselves in.
There's so much going on. There's one other thing that happened with a wind turbine, but are we out of time? Shall I tell
Albert, what is the situation with time, please, sir? You're the boss, and I.
Albert, thank you.
What do you think?
We could quickly fit it in here. I already have the
go ahead.
photos lined up.
Okay, so last month there was a world record set with a wind turbine in China, and in one day it produced enough power to power 170,000 homes. Now, it's an absolutely enormous wind turbine. The diameter of its blades is 252 meters, which is 2.5 times a football field. And the thing, how did it do this? How was, one wind turbine able to do that? Well, there was a typhoon, that's a hurricane in China. It was hammering southeast China. And the thing about these wind turbines is they have blades that can be manipulated in real time. A lot of the wind turbines have to be shut down when there's a hurricane going on, but this one, they could move the blades so that it could still be powered. They get up to incredible speeds. And as we were just talking about Otis, we're going to have more of these crazy storms. So if we have wind turbines that can in real time be adjusted to take advantage of these winds and produce energy, we're really going in the right direction.
Wow, that's terrific, man. That's an enormous, you can't even tell, how super immense that thing is, because, it's tough to appreciate the scale looking at it in the picture, but wow, extraordinary.
Right. they're so huge, and it's cool. We have to do it. So it's happening. And I just want to quickly add, for any naysayers, remember, coal-fired power plants produce more pollution, air pollution, that kills more birds than wind turbines. So you have to know that about
coal-fired plants. You were saying produce more. You just dropped out for a second. Yeah. Okay.
They produce air pollution that kills way more birds than the bird fatalities that happen because of wind turbines.
Yeah. Belinda, we love it. This will be a one-off. Next Thursday, we'll see you in the second hour. But we love you whenever we can get you. And
I promise I'll be on time.
Belinda Waymouth, everyone. Bye, Belinda. It's the Planet Stupid for today.
More.
It's the Planet Stupid. No. It's the Planet Stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, we have quite the hour awaiting you, my friends.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The brilliant David Katz with legal analysis coming up after the week that we've had with the flipping from Mark Meadows to Jenna Ellis to Chesborough to Sidney Powell. He'll comment on all of them. Also, I've asked him to comment on something that is of the moment, which is the real possibility that you could sue gun manufacturers for damages. That's what happened with the tobacco companies, right? They were sued. Now, it's a little different with the gun manufacturers, as you're probably aware, but I'll have David Katz outline some of that and what are the realities concerning that. Also, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who comes from regular stock.
I come from regular stock.
Has that huge RV that he picked up because he likes the quiet Walmart parking lots. That's really where he's most comfortable vacationing, you see. And he's doing it in that huge RV that was paid for with a loan that was ultimately forgiven. That is against the law if you don't pay taxes on that. And apparently no taxes were paid. Laws are broken. I don't know that it'll have any effect, but we'll talk to David Katz about that as well. So all of that still to come. Now, my question, Albert, is we have a little bit of a fork in the road. Can I do a little bit of law and disorder here, or do I need to go to Kim's News?
I think Law and Disorder is really good. So let's do Kim's News and get to David Katz, and maybe we'll do it after.
Perfect. So we'll do it after Katz.
Yeah.
Okay.
After
Great.
Katz. Yep.
All right. Good plan. That's why you're the producer, and I'm just
Albert. Thank you.
I'm just the pretty face. What? Where was the what?
What?
Kim.
Yes.
Your newscast is next. So
Kim, how are you?
I'm hoping that you've got your act together. Typically you do. Not saying you don't.
I'm saying it's kind of a crapshoot. We'll see how it goes.
All right. And we'll do it live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
All right. Smash the like button like a boss. David Katz after Kim's News. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. Delicious. New Speaker of the House Mike Johnson receiving congratulations from former President Trump. Wednesday, Trump spoke to reporters outside of a New York courtroom, saying Johnson is a tremendous leader and a tremendous man who will be a great Speaker of the House. Trump also took credit for the Louisiana Republicans' win, saying nobody was thinking of him on Tuesday, but after Trump mentioned his name, he became the GOP's top choice for the gavel.
Hey, he's not wrong. I mean, Trump did back him.
All about Trump.
So,
Trump. Me. All
There's
about
never
Trump.
been anything like this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's all about Trump. But
don't talk to me that way.
I'm just saying. The first act the newest Speaker of the House of Representatives is making, bringing a resolution supporting Israel to the floor of the House, which Mike Johnson did yesterday. He again filled the seat after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted 3 weeks ago. He said the move was long overdue. The non-binding measure, passed with overwhelming support, calls on the Palestinian militant group Hamas to cease fighting and release all hostages. That off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot accused of trying to crash a plane will appear in a Portland, Oregon federal court today. Joseph Emerson is expected to be charged with interference of a flight crew. Emerson faces 83 charges of attempted murder in state court as well. Emerson reportedly told police he hadn't slept in 40 hours, was suffering from a nervous breakdown, and had used psychedelic mushrooms. Not a good combination.
Yeah, that's not going to do it, I don't think, to get him any sort of sympathy, I wouldn't think.
Georgia school teachers could be paid to carry a gun on campus. A Republican state senator introduced a bill that gives teachers a $10,000 stipend to take a firearms course and carry a gun at school. School systems would approve a gun training program, and local school boards could decide if they would like to opt in. Critics say the bill would make classrooms more dangerous. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried could take the stand as early as today in his criminal fraud trial in New York. He's accused of stealing as much as $10 billion in deposits from FTX customers. Faces more than 100 years in jail if fully
Joe
convicted.
Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah, maybe they'll be called to the stand also.
I mean, $10 billion, that's a little greedy. Why'd you need that much? Just wondering. City of Oakland trying something new to stop car break-ins. Police will test a new pilot program this weekend using social media. Anyone who needs to report such a crime can do it on Instagram and X. Police say the city has seen more than 11,000 auto burglaries so far this year, up 36% from last year. Officers are back to doing foot patrols in the downtown and business areas most affected by this. We had this story on the show. This U-Haul truck filled with puppets and props and costumes for a national touring production has been found in Richmond. It was stolen last weekend.
Yeah,
it was stolen outside the Comfort Inn in San Francisco.
That's right.
They had been doing a 4-night run of Song of the North at Fort Mason, and they had fully packed this U-Haul truck with everything they have. I mean, all the puppets, everything, the whole production was packed into this truck, and someone drove it away. A woman saw the news report, realized the truck was parked right in front of her house. The show's director had been offering a reward. He says he's relieved to have everything back.
That is a great ending to. I felt bad for those people.
Really bad.
I love a puppet show, as you know.
Right.
I've got puppets behind me right now, as you're aware. I've got all the George Washington puppets, and I've got the other puppets. Who the other puppets? Abe Lincoln. I've got my Frederick Douglass puppet. That's one of my favorites.
Sure. Yeah, they're all back there. Beethoven, I think, is back there, right?
Yeah, Angry Beethoven. I've got
Angry
two
Beethoven?
Angry Beethoven.
Yeah.
Angry Beethoven, who is the big Beethoven, and then there's Mini Angry Beethoven is also the other. Yeah, those. But I love puppets, and I'm glad that the puppets are now
all
back.
the puppets are back. Everything's good.
Safe in puppet land.
Some Bay Area restaurants are raising money to help children in Gaza. The effort started with 2. It's grown to at least 14. On Tuesday, El Halal Amigos in San Jose donated half of its sales. Yesterday, Murchie Cafe in Fremont and Dublin did the same. The fundraiser will continue to November 4th with the focus on sending relief support to the youngest victims of this conflict. Fort Bragg is building a water desalination plant thanks to a $1.5 million grant and new technology from Onega Technologies. Officials say after almost running out of water in 2015, Fort Bragg sought out alternative solutions to their water problem. They have no underground water source like most areas, which puts them in a pretty precarious position. In 2015, they told residents use paper plates instead of washing dishes, and they had other water-saving measures as well. The wave-powered desalination technology uses no fossil fuels, skipping the conversion to electricity to run pumps. If the project is successful, the city says it will increase funding for it. So hopefully that fixes the problem. In the Sierra, Forecasters say the first snowfall of the season was pretty impressive. Researchers at the UC Berkeley Central Sierra Snow Lab say yesterday's storm came as snow rather than rain, which was initially expected. It resulted in about 4 inches of fresh powder in the Tahoe region as of this morning. Yeah.
In October.
There's never been anything like this.
That's right. We had the first chain controls issued during the storm last night, I-80 over the Donner Pass.
It's fantastic.
Well, the
Telling
chain
you.
laws aren't fantastic. But,
Some snow likely next week, late next week, though it's not as expected to be as wet as this recent system.
Wow.
It was great. I loved it.
I know. You can frolic in the snow. Good for you.
And lastly, Meghan Markle might be back on the brink of a multi-million-dollar payday.
Who is having that conversation?
Oh, Meghan is having that conversation. The actress and member of the British royal family reportedly close to making a deal with Audible that could involve audiobooks and podcasts.
Oh, my God.
No.
Yes.
Now, granted, this story comes out of the Mirror, but it says Markle seems confident in the deal and apparently thinks that it may be able to further Hollywood aspirations. The potential opportunity comes after Markle and Prince Harry's $20 million deal with Spotify collapsed in June after reports surfaced they couldn't create enough content. I'm telling you, this whole podcast thing.
They did four podcasts.
Like, you
it's
guys,
some $10 million overall deal.
It's actually a job, okay? It's not like we do a podcast when we feel like doing a podcast. Come on.
Oh, that's very, very funny.
Please.
It's great to be famous and be royal. You know, the royal.
I guess so.
Royal
Yeah.
fame goes a long way, I guess.
This report sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee, and boy, is it delicious. They've got the coffee, they've got the tea, they've got it all, and it's so for you can
I
get
had the espresso. You know, I've been doing. I didn't mean to interrupt Kim, but I just wanted to mention.
Right?
I did the. For the last 6 weeks or so, I've been favoring the French press. But today I kicked in some espresso, the El Gato. I really love that. It's a dark, rich espresso, dark as night. Gets right, it just fills your palate with magnificent tasting tones. But I also have been turned on to this medium roast, which is the El Salvador, with flavors of bourbon and honey. Can you see that? Flavors of bourbon and honey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And that's really good for both pour over and for French press. Look, best coffee I've ever tasted. And it is de facto organic. I can take you through the process, but it's arguably better than organic in many ways, because there are other safeguards. And in future, I will take you through that process. It's kind of interesting. But I love Coachella Valley Coffee, and I'm so proud to have them on as sponsors. And Kim will now tell you about how you can get a discount.
Mark T, you put it in at checkout altogether, Mark T for your 10% off. And that's an exclusive deal for Mark Thompson Show listeners. And let me say that some people are really loving it. As a matter of fact, Ricky Aubert says Coachella Valley Sumatra. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And Square says delicious.
Yeah.
Delicious sponsor. Love Coachella's brew. That from Square.
Right.
And another one from Harry who says Coachella coffee, the perfect the day after a night at the Red Jack.
Oh,
so
that's so true. I feel you on that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Feel you on that.
This report is, again, sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee, and we appreciate them so much, and we appreciate you, too. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
That's not fake. That's real.
It's fantastic. There's never been anything like this.
We've never seen anything like it before.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Everything is going extremely well.
Big shout out.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
No, no, no.
I did everything right and they indicted me. I misspoke. My bad. I'm sorry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah, you know it. Hour 2, my favorite hour on Thursdays because it brings in the great defense attorney, former federal prosecutor. Yeah, used to work the other side of the table. You can hear him on London radio. They seek his counsel regularly to decode much of what's going on with various cases, all lately related to Trump and his hench people. And you can also see him and hear him on Fox News Channel. They call on him as well as an independent observer and independent party when it comes to, again, evaluating and explaining what's going on in the law. He is so generous to join us on Thursdays. He's the great David Katz, everybody.
Great to be with you.
David, what a week to be able to speak with you. It was a flip week. I say flip. I mean, these are a bunch of people who are around Trump. They were very close to the action in trying to come up with fake electors and essentially cobbling together plans and strategies to overturn an election. And now they are pleading guilty and pleading out and making deals. Can you take us through a few of them? It was everyone from Jenna Ellis to Mark Meadows, it seems.
Sure. I've had some criticisms of Fani Willis, the DA down there, but I think that, generally speaking, I think she's done a good job. And I think that the people who say that, these were slaps on the wrist, these were sweetheart deals, nobody else charged these people anywhere, right? Jenna Ellis could have been charged criminally in Colorado. Chesbro could have been charged in Wisconsin by a prosecutor up there. And so these people were charged by her. Now, it's not very satisfactory to some people that the first one, that's the one who was going to bring out the Kraken, Sidney Powell.
Sidney Powell.
Was so strange and controversial. Trump has now said, she was never my lawyer, which is pretty comical because there goes the advice of counsel defense he might have otherwise made. And also the attorney-client privilege. If you say someone's never been your attorney, people say, well, he can turn around and artfully say in court that she was his attorney. I think once you've said publicly, this person was not my attorney, was never my attorney, I think your attorney-client privilege is gone as a practical matter. So that was really stupid of Trump. Duh. What else is new this last week or two? So I don't think she's going to end up being important in the case. They did settle for a misdemeanor with her. She was the first one to come in. I thought that was kind of a slap on the wrist. But having said that, as I said, at least Fani Willis dealt with these people. There wasn't going to be a big attorney-client defense for Trump overall once these attorneys started coming in and making deals. So I think it was important to break the ice and have her come in, give her a misdemeanor. She assessed the situation. I don't think anybody's really going to use her as a witness. I think that she's just too damaged, not just in the public mind, but with the statements that she's made. So I think Sidney Powell will be kind of a non-player in all of this. Then the next one to come in was Chesbro. I'm going to say his name correctly, although I've since read in the New York Times profile of him that everyone called him the cheese because he was from Wisconsin, fair or unfair. Everyone at Harvard Law School called him that. He was an interesting person. He worked for Professor Lawrence Tribe, who's on MSNBC all the time. They actually worked for Gore in the Gore v. Bush thing. His story, Chesbro, his defense was that he was just bringing to it the expertise that he'd gotten in Gore v. Bush, that he really did know something about these alternate slates and so forth. And this was supposed to be a true alternate slate. The prosecution side of it was he held it off as being a qualified slate. He made it look like it was worthy of being an alternate slate to the Biden slate. He gave it this patina of being in legal advice, that it would really be accepted in Washington, D.C., and accepted by the Congress and accepted by Vice President Pence, so that Pence would stay his hand and either accept those alternate phony slates and or he would just not accept the authentic slates, which of course had all been voted for Biden in those swing states. The election was basically over. So Chesbro is going to be an interesting person in it, but I have a feeling that Chesbro was very intellectual. He was not really near Trump. I don't think he had the personal conversations with Trump that maybe Eastman had, that maybe a couple of the others, certainly that Mark Meadows had. So I think ultimately Chesbro's flipping, because everybody wants to know what's the impact on Trump. I think that will not be great. Now, the next interesting one to come along was Jenna Ellis. Now, you might think from her crying in court and carrying on that she was just out of law school. She's 38 years old. She's been a prosecutor in Colorado. It's not her first rodeo. When she says, well, she relied on all these other people who knew a lot more about elections, let me tell you this. Giuliani did not know more election law than she did. If she cracked the book, she knew more election law than he did. And she'd been around, as I say, for a while. So I thought that was, performance art. But then so much of the things that we see today in courtrooms are performance art.
Well, just on that note, David, it's because I was making that point in the first hour that maybe she's playing to the public because otherwise her deal is already made. I mean, I don't understand what she's doing with this show in front of the judge.
She had already told the Colorado bar, which censured her, that because she's a member of the bar there in Colorado, that she loved and respected Trump to the bottom of her heart, but she wouldn't vote for him because he was a malignant narcissist. Now, normally being a malignant narcissist, you wouldn't think would get you a lot of love and respect, but she's all over the lot. I think that she thinks she's going to somehow be like a Christian broadcaster.
I see.
Or she's going to have a sort of a law, Christian values podcast future. And so I think she's certainly playing to that. One thing which will be interesting, I think Sidney Powell has really no future legal career. I think Jenna Ellis hopes that she will and probably will. And I think Chesbro's a really tough one. What was interesting or frightening, if you look at him as someone who tried to imperil our democracy and should have known an awful lot better and used his brains, to really hurt democracy and to try to help Trump. He threw in his lot with a guy that he knew didn't have a decent argument at all. That's my view of Chesbro. And but his lawyers very ably got the prosecutor in Atlanta to agree that this was not a crime of moral turpitude. So apparently shoplifting is a crime of moral turpitude, trying to steal flip-flops. But trying to steal our democracy, trying to steal the 2020 presidential election, this, according to the prosecutor, was not for Chesbro a crime of moral turpitude. The reason he wanted that on the record is, of course, to go tell the bar that because he's got some bar proceedings going on, and that one could go either way. Giuliani's ticket is, of course, totally gone. And that's where Jenna Ellis is important. I assume that she can sink Giuliani because she had conversations with him all the time. I think she's going to testify and be credible that Giuliani didn't believe any of this, that Giuliani just said whatever he thought, somebody wanted to hear. And he knew, just like Trump did, and I think she can quote maybe Trump too, that they knew that they lost the election. At some point, I think Meadows supposedly said under immunity, it's been reported, that he went to Trump after they lost in the U.S. Supreme Court. Even the U.S. Supreme Court didn't support him. Even some of the justices he nominated for the Supreme Court didn't support him. And Meadows said to him, it's basically over. And Trump said back, yeah, that's the end. Well, it wasn't the end. After that, we had all the fake outs by Trump, all of the big lie, and we had the June 6th insurrection with people killed, all after Trump himself supposedly said to Meadows, I know it's the end. I know it's all over. But he wasn't willing to transition power, was he?
Yeah, I mean, that's he really was in the belly of the beast, Meadows. And he wrote the book essentially stating that the election was stolen. And all of a sudden he's clearly going to have to provide testimony that flies in the face of that essentially says I was lying the whole time.
One more comment about Meadows. There's been so much news about these people close to Trump. Meadows, you remember, had this pretty, at least, arguable motion that his case ought to go to federal court, that he shouldn't be tried, even if these were possibly state offenses. He has the right as a federal officer at the time to be tried in federal court. The federal judge denied that. People have asked me, whatever happened to that? Well, it went to the 11th Circuit, and the 11th Circuit wanted more briefing, and the briefing is going to come in November. So apparently they're not going to decide that appeal of whether Meadows has the right to go to federal court or not. With that, I believe if they rule in his favor, Jeffrey Clark, who was the acting attorney general for literally less than an hour, that guy who was number 6 or 7 in the Justice Department and wanted to vault over the others, he, I believe, would also go to federal court if Meadows wins. But I don't believe that Trump would go to federal court because Trump had a chance to throw in his lot with the federal, let's go to federal court crowd, and he didn't want it. And my speculation then, and it still holds, is that that might actually produce a speedy trial in federal court, even if the appellate court decides in, let's say, December, not sooner, which I would have expected, but let's say they decide in December in favor of Meadows. That would take his case to federal court, take Jeffrey Clark's case to federal court, but it wouldn't take Trump's because Trump had the chance to elect to go that route, and he elected not to go that route because he's trusting in the fairness of that judge down there. Remember, he had to go on the record and say, instead of just saying nothing or just saying, I declined to go to federal court, he said, I'm staying with you, state judge, because I trust in your whatever it is. And the minute that judge starts ruling against him down in Atlanta, believe me, he'll turn on him, right? And criticize him, lampoon him, lambast him.
Right. So with all of these, before we move off of the Trump people, lawyers, essentially.
We got to do Cohen.
What's that? Oh, Michael Cohen. Yeah. Michael Cohen's, that's the fraud case. So that's been decided. It's all now just a question of damages, et cetera. Go ahead, please, on Michael Cohen.
So there's fraud and there's some other crimes that are alleged. The judge said the fraud is so clear. This is a judge trial. I don't need to spend any more of my time. I'm giving a summary judgment that fraud has been established. The state's case, this Letitia James's, she's the state attorney general there in New York. Her case was so overpowering, so compelling. The defense of Trump had a chance to put in whatever they wanted to put in. It's a judge trial. I don't need to have a trial on fraud. But there's some other there's some other civil charges that still need to be tried. So this case is to try those other civil charges and also to fix the penalty, which the government has asked to have no less than $250 million as the fine. But where the rubber really meets the road there is to suspend the business license of the Trump organization in New York. And everything, it turns out, is held in New York under the Trump organization. So that would potentially, looks like it will, oust him from control of Trump Tower, the Trump Hotel that's on Central Park West, the Mar-a-Lago estate, all under the name of that New York entity. And that New York entity is controlled by New York law. And this judge has the power without a jury, if he's correct on the law and the facts, but he has the power without a jury to suspend that license. And then there would be basically a receiver, and Trump would have to get approval to sell or to transfer anything in the Trump empire. That's why he cares so much. That's why he's in that courtroom trying to, tip the balance if he can.
I see.
Michael Cohen. Can we talk about Michael Cohen?
Michael Cohen, right.
So Michael Cohen is such an interesting person. First he was his attack dog starting in about 2007. If you really wanted to have a problem in life, Michael Cohen would make sure you had every problem known to man. He'd write you insulting letters. He'd file lawsuits. He was really the attack dog. People say he was the fixer. Before he would fix anything, he was the attack dog. Now, I think he really wanted to be chief of staff, or at least wanted an office in the White House for all of his years of loyal service to Trump. Trump treated him kind of like, well, I want all these Ivy League guys. I want all these guys with fancy credentials. I don't want you. You were good enough, to go fight it out in the trenches for me, but you're not good enough to have a White House office. And, Cohen was really, not only was he upset about that personally, but I think it meant that they could raid his office. I don't think they would have raided Mark Cohen's office with a federal search warrant if the office had been in the White House.
That's a great point. Wow.
So that started some of the, and then of course Trump distanced himself from him because he figured, I'm not going to embrace this guy. This guy can hurt me too much. And if it's someone that I'm embracing who's hurting me, that's much worse. If I distance myself and say, well, this guy was a rogue, I never knew what he was doing, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly the position he took. Then he stopped paying Cohn's legal bills. They also stopped paying this Jenna Ellis's legal bills. That's when you knew she was going over to,
right.
to that
She
side.
actually had a GoFundMe going to try to get to pay for those bills.
He stopped paying Michael Cohn's bills. Luckily, Michael Cohn ended up with a good lawyer. That lawyer that you see him appear with, who was on some of the Clinton defense cases. He was sort of known as a Clinton defense lawyer and defense spokesperson for Clinton. Anyway, that guy went and represented Michael Cohn, maybe for the fame and notoriety, keep his name in the limelight. Maybe he got some money for it with Michael Cohn. But the great thing about Michael Cohn is all Michael Cohn has to say under cross-examination by Trump's lawyers is, yes, I pleaded guilty to tax evasion. I evaded my taxes, but Cohn just can't do it. So what he says on the stand the other day is, well, I didn't really, tax evasion is a guilty knowledge. I didn't really have guilty knowledge. I underpaid my taxes. And they're like, wait a second. So you lied to the federal judge when you were under oath? And Cohn had to say yes, because Cohn, and you wonder why he wasn't better prepared. And he may be one of those witnesses that you can talk to them, you can do a mock cross-examination, and they're just never going to be a good witness. But I think Trump thought that by sitting there in front of him, he could unnerve him, kind of like that scene in The Godfather 2,
Sure.
where they bring the guy from Sicily. But anyway, that actually being there, having Trump staring at him, being in that courtroom. And so Michael Cohn was not really a great witness on that point, and you wonder why he's still fighting over that.
Let me just be clear about this. When you say he wasn't a good witness on that point, it's because his testimony can be impugned so easily as a result of this.
His credibility ultimately is important, because what he says is that Trump never said directly what he wanted. So you come in and you're there with Weisselberg, and you say to Trump, it's just Cohn, the lawyer, Weisselberg, the accountant, who's pretty much kept his mouth shut and not hurt Trump, and Trump himself. And they say, well, we're working these numbers, Mr. Trump, and they come out to about $4 billion. What's wrong with you people? Everyone says I'm worth $6 billion. Everyone says I'm worth $6 billion, and he storms out of the room. Now, he didn't tell you to change the numbers from $4.5 billion to $6 billion, right? But from the way he acted, the whole vibe, working with him for years. And so Cohn has to say, did he directly tell you to write down $6 billion and not $4.5 billion? That's when he says, well, no, not really, because of the way he talks, that mafia guy. As soon as he says no, Trump jumps up. See, I won. I'm right. His lawyer demands that charges be dismissed. The judge says, there's enough evidence against you. Forget Michael Cohn. There's enough evidence against you to fill the courtroom. That's when Trump jumps up, storms out of the courtroom, holds a press conference. So that's the drama that's going on there. And,
it does relate to credibility then. Yeah.
It does relate to credibility, and the fact that he would be placed under oath by a federal judge and told, okay, now you're telling me under oath that you violated the tax evasion laws. You had the necessary intent. You willfully did it, knowing that you were violating the tax laws. Yes, Your Honor. And now he says on the stand 4 or 5 years later, well, no, that wasn't really right. You have to say what you have to say to have your guilty plea accepted. He just looks very sneaky and smarmy.
All right. Can I move to Clarence Thomas with you quickly?
Absolutely.
So in 1999, he bought a used RV, as you know, because he's an RV kind of guy, likes the Walmart parking lot. And,
I come from regular stock.
That's right. He comes from regular stock. And he bought this Prevost Marathon Le Mirage for $267,230. It's a 40-foot long luxury bus. Looks like a rock band might, be in something like this. It's a big thing. Anyway, he paid for it after he borrowed this money from Anthony Welters, who was a healthcare business mogul. And the terms of the loan were to make interest-only payments for 5 years, then pay off the principal. The loan was charged an annual interest rate of 7.5%. This amounted to annual interest of $20,000, roughly. Can be considered a sweetheart deal. So the Senate Finance Committee asked Welters for records of these interest-only payments, and he can only find 1 year where the interest payment was made, in 2000. After 5 years, in 2004, when the principal was due, Welters gave him a 10-year extension. In 2003, Thomas had collected a $500,000 amount from a book. It was a book deal. And then in 2008, Welters said, hey, you know what? Forget about it. He forgave the loan entirely. So he had given Thomas, effectively, David Katz, $267,230, either as a gift or as income. In either case, there would be significant tax consequences. Isn't that right? There's no evidence that Thomas ever paid taxes on it.
Absolutely. This is another blemish on the much blemished integrity of Clarence Thomas. If you're a basically law-abiding person, if you're the kind of person that you can imagine being a federal justice, you never would get yourself into this kind of situation. This is this total disregard for the law by a person who's sworn to uphold the law. And it's an absolute disgrace that Clarence Thomas is on there. And so the idea was you basically get, first of all, they never disclosed that this thing cost $276,000. When he talks about, I'm from regular folk and I have my, my little bus. Everyone thinks it's a bus like the other people's buses in the Walmart parking lot. So this is a total sham, what he tried to show on 60 Minutes, regular guy kind of thing. But on top of that, this was if he just gotten this thing outright, it's pretty clear he would have had to disclose it on his form, and he'd be way out of line not disclosing it on the form. By getting it as a loan, he could say, well, I didn't really get anything, right? I could have gone to a bank and did it, but I didn't get it at a bank. I got it from a friend of mine. And then, of course, the friend, it does interest only, which a bank wouldn't have done interest only. The reason this made no commercial sense for a bank is, first of all, he didn't have collateral. Secondly, he only had a justice's salary, which is, a nice living, but it's not, it doesn't support buying at the time in the 90s a $276,000 vehicle. Plus, apparently, he and Ginny had lived off their credit card, and so nobody would have lent them against that except a crony. So his old crony lends him interest only. He pays the interest for a while, and then his friend says, you paid interest for a while. I mean, that's a wonderful thing, so you don't have to pay the principal. Now, you go find me a bank. Mark, let's go borrow some money from a bank, because the bank is going to tell us, right, oh, you paid interest for a while, so forget the principal. We all know we have that on our house where you pay interest for a while and they tell you forget the principal. This is just madness. It's just craziness. And the year in which the loan was forgiven by the crony, it was income to him. That amount, small amounts, yes, that doesn't happen. And when your friend lends you $5,000 and says, don't pay me back, sure, do people put that on their tax return? Probably not. But something like this with a professional accountant that Thomas had doing it, that Ginny had doing it, that was a scam. That was an absolute tax scam on which the statute of limitations has probably run by now.
So it's just one of those things. It's now been revealed, and he gets to skate on it. And we have more evidence, as you say, of a completely corrupted judge with, cases before the Supreme Court that do involve some of these people and their interests, these people I'm talking about, though, who have given him money. Now I want to ask you,
Mark, it's completely scandalous. These people, this fellow, I believe, he's a huge healthcare executive. Of course, the healthcare industry has huge issues before the U.S. Supreme Court. They care about regulations. They care about the FDA. They care about all kinds of stuff that Thomas rules on and doesn't recuse himself. So, of course, it's just the ongoing disgrace. And, if the House were Democratic, they really should start investigating articles of impeachment. Not on Ali Mayorkas. That's the only thing that the Republicans want to talk about. A lot of people are coming through the border, so somebody needs to be impeached. But this is specific evidence that they have on Thomas. And you can certainly impeach somebody and try them in the Senate for something on which the statute of limitations has run. And this is just all of a piece with, the boondoggles, the junkets that weren't reported as income, with all the other things that Thomas has done. They bought a house from his family. They paid for some relative.
His mother lives in a house that paid for by somebody else. Yeah,
it doesn't stop. It's like he uses that seat on the U.S. Supreme Court of the United States to be one of those incredibly honored 9. He uses it as a scam.
I wanted to, in our last minute or so, ask you about, and I promised everyone what I would, yet again, another massacre at the hands of someone with assault weapons. This is going on in Maine, the search for this guy. And it got me thinking about what they did with the tobacco companies. There was a lawsuit to try to hold the tobacco companies liable for the cancer, for the health effects, the ill health effects of smoking. And it was effective. Could anything like that ever be launched against these arms manufacturers, these gun manufacturers, or are they now in a separate category in this United States of guns?
Well, when W was president, and he, I think, had both houses of Congress in 2006, 2007, they passed this law, which basically says you can't sue gun manufacturers except under very specific circumstances. So things are not like they were in tobacco. And the other thing is that there was sort of a movement against smoking. Smoking was getting banned everywhere. Everyone thought smoking was a really bad thing. Probably if you'd taken a poll of people, they were very much against it. And so there was sort of more maneuverability. And, tobacco is, deadly or very harmful. There's no doubt about it. Now, you can say so are guns, but if guns are used for their intended purpose, right? This is what the gun lobby always says. It's not like tobacco, which will kill you either very quickly or very slowly, but it'll kill you. And so there was more of a crescendo of support. And I think that although the tobacco industry was very strong, it had great lawyers. Merrick Garland and I were at the same law firm, and we were lawyers for big tobacco. But all of it changed later. Might it change later for the gun manufacturers? It might, Mark. But the main argument that's worked, the one that worked against Remington in the Newtown.
Right, Newtown, exactly.
Was that they had been marketed by Remington to young males as, show you're aggressive, show how tough you are. And they'd really been pushed in the marketing campaign. So they were able to collect for the marketing campaign. I think that generally the gun manufacturers try to avoid the kind of marketing campaigns that might get them sued the same way that Remington was successfully sued and had to settle. But I think, no, they have this huge control with the Republican Party. The Republican Party runs the House of Representatives. Now they have someone who's even more right-wing than McCarthy, even more pro-guns as the speaker. And so I think it's going to be very difficult. And, this thing right now, you might have solved with state, red flag laws or yellow flag laws. It turns out that this person, this shooter, I think it's more than alleged, they have a photograph of him, was in like a mental health care facility. But there was no way, even with him being in a mental health care facility in the last few months, that there was the right of the state to take his guns away from him. That is the very least that has to be done in all of these states. And they have to ban assault. If anybody out there believes that people should run around and have the right to get assault rifles, take a look at what they actually do. If you can stand the horror of it, take a look at what they actually do to a body. They are a military weapon for fighting enemy soldiers. They should not be on the streets. You don't need them for hunting.
Well, look, they can't even identify some of these kids because their faces are gone from the blast of these weapons. They have to use DNA. It's disgusting. Now, the last thing I want to ask you about, this is the super last thing, I promise, is this wild case that we reported on when it happened. It was the explosion of that boat, the horrible boat fire where people were trapped, and the captain jumped off the boat. And because he jumped off the boat, prosecutors are saying that he is someone who can be held responsible for the deaths of people on board because he could have done more to prevent their deaths. I wonder if you can give me a second on this.
Sure, give me more than a second if you're
okay. It's a fascinating case to me because we all are sort of roughly familiar with it.
It's in federal court because it happened on the high seas, I think near Catalina, not near Catalina, near the
near
other
Santa
one.
Barbara.
Santa Barbara, the islands that you can see from Ventura or Santa Barbara on a clear day. Right. And so there's over 30 people who are going out there for tourism, and you stay overnight in this beautiful remote location. All the people who were, there in the boat, all the tourists were killed, over 30 of them, and one crew member. You're right that what the captain did, he's not a guy who owns the boat. He's not a real rich guy. He's a guy who works as a captain. He's got a public defender down in federal court in Los Angeles, where I was an assistant U.S. attorney. So I'm very interested in that case. I know the judge. It's the public defenders are representing him. They seem to be doing a good job. And so it's undisputed that the captain, instead of staying with the ship, jumped off. Now, he would say the ship was burning. By the time he woke up and saw what was going on, the ship was burning. He jumped off. Once he was in the water, he saw it was totally inflamed. There was no way to get back on it. Plus, some of the other crew members had jumped off. He was saving their lives, including one crew member with a broken leg. And he managed to save the lives of, I guess, everyone in the water. That's his story. The government story is that in addition to that, there's two things that he didn't do. One of them is he didn't have a night watchman. You have to have a night watchman according to the regulations. You have to have someone who's staying up all night and who's trained, and that's what he does, so that the minute that fire starts to break out, he can either put out the fire or at least open up the hatch, I think it's called, so all the tourists can run out of the hole that they're in at the time. And the second thing is there's a way to put out those fires, and if you're trained in it, there's some kind of pump that you can grab and you can put out a fire very quickly, and none of the crew had been trained in that. So that is his grossly negligent conduct, according to the government. That's his recklessness, to not have a night watchman as the law prescribes, and to not have given them that extensive training that they should have been given. He says, I learned from another guy whose job I took. That captain didn't do it either. We've always done it that way. The government is, trying to put me in prison over something that was a terrible accident. I wish I could have saved everybody, and I jumped off because there was a fire, and then I saved the other guys. And if I didn't train them, well, nobody trains them, and that shouldn't be a criminal case against me. I think on balance, because the case is so sad and there's such a tragedy that's occurred, I think he'll probably end up getting convicted.
You do? Wow, that's very interesting.
I think that fact that he didn't have a night person, I think that's just kind of common sense too. You're going to have 33 people, tourists, locked in the hold of the ship, whatever it is.
Oh,
there's no night watchman to make sure if something goes wrong. I mean, anything could go wrong. Come on, post a guy out there. That's not only common sense, but it's federal regulations. And whether the guy before him did it or not, he takes that job. You have to know what safety precautions you have to take, whether the guy before you took them or not. So I think you got those two safety precautions. He didn't do them. And I think that they'll probably, on balance, convict him.
Wow, that's big. That's very big. 34 people killed. And it was devastating. I just remember it so clearly, and the thought of being incinerated, trapped as the fire, it's a horrifying vision, But that's interesting that he'll end up being held responsible in your judgment. Wow, boy, we covered a lot of territory, David.
Mark, I may go 16-1. I don't know. I'm pretty much 16-0 streak.
Katzadamus. Where is the Katzadamus?
You got to not fail to make predictions, because you think that, right? Even if no one's ever like the pitchers. Even the pitchers who win 20 games, they don't go 20-0. So
yeah, even though you gave up a homer, you got to show up the next day. You're right. So. David, thanks for being so available to comment on so many of these important cases. Really appreciate our time together and look forward to next week. David Katz, everybody.
Great to be with you.
Bye-bye, David. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Wow.
The Mark Thompson Show.
That was really cool. Man, we covered a lot of territory with the great David Katz. And I'm starting to think that Clarence Thomas may not be on the up and up. What are you? Anybody else starting to? Yeah. There's Katzadamus, the prediction. That was the drawing of David Katz as Nostradamus.
That's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Who did it again? Albert, do you remember who did it? I forget who it was.
I don't, but I did have to dig for this one. That's why I was trying to look for this one.
That was very impressive, Albert.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. We got to keep it at the ready. So that when David's on and makes a prediction, we can post the Katzadamus.
Yeah, I'll be here on Thursdays now, so I got to keep this one closer to me.
Oh, that's right. This is new. Albert's normally not here on Thursday. We changed the schedule just a little bit. A lot of people with thanks to David Katz, if you look in the chat, and a lot of people with opinions on what's going to happen with the various Trump flippers. And there was a comment on Angry Beethoven from Jason. Mark, you're so prescient. I just started a neoclassical progressive project called Angry Beethoven. I have Angry Beethoven is back here in the, I don't know if you can see, that's actually Angry Beethoven and then Little Angry Beethoven. So Beethoven's angry all the time. And who wouldn't be angry? The guy's going deaf. And he's a classical composer. It sucks. I don't blame him for being irritated, is all I'm saying. So, smash the like button for Angry Beethoven.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it for David Katz.
Smash it with your iron rod.
With a thumbs up. He's really he's the real deal. So, well, Albert, you're the producer of this show, and we have and face some real challenges. because of various things and things running long and blah, blah, blah.
Didn't you
I'm
have
wondering
something you wanted to do? You had, was it a chunk of something or a law and disorder or something?
Law and disorder is what I wanted to do, and I still want to do it, Albert. Can I do it or not?
Yeah, I agree, because I don't think we'll get to it tomorrow, so I think we should just get to it now. Sorry, Kim. I know you love your newscast, and we all love
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, but
Albert's true opinions come forward.
Yes.
Kim, how are you?
I think his true opinion. We all adore your
I know
newscast.
you love the news, Kim, but whatever.
Well, Kim, you hop on over to that live show after this one, the after party live.
Kim's already eyeing the exit. It's so obvious.
And then it's just me and Mark in the. It's
by
me and
45 minutes into
meeting.
the second hour.
Let's see. What should I do on my after party live?
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
All right, this is here it is, some law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
The California Supreme Court refusing to hear an appeal from Disney as to whether an Anaheim wage law, they're in Anaheim in Southern California, applies to its lowest paid theme park workers. That really sets the stage for Disneyland to boost wages for many of its workers.
What?
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Where's MAGA Mickey? How does MAGA Mickey feel about that? 2024! Yeah, there it is. That's MAGA Mickey. Trump 2024! 2024! Yeah. Over the summer, the state's 4th District Court of Appeal ordered essentially raises and back pay for the cast members, as they call their employees. Everybody's a cast member. I kind of like that. We should start calling everybody who works here cast members. But it was a class action lawsuit. And the state Supreme Court decision to allow the appeal court's order to stand is a serious legal blow to Disney. They're going to have to pay back pay to a lot of these cast members, as they are called. Richmond, California, the first in the U.S. to officially back Palestinians and accuse Israel of ethnic cleansing. They had to be forced into including a mention of what happened on October 7th. This is the problem, I think. I mean, again, oversimplification.
Do you think it's ethnic cleansing?
Absolutely not. Let me say this, to be fair, now that everything is totally shifting, in this news cycle that has this voracious appetite. Every 24 hours, you're onto a new thing. It's like they just slaughtered all of these people, men, women, children, took hostages and all the rest, and we're already on to the Israelis and and I understand. I mean, you can do two things. You can recognize the horror and also recognize the horrible situation in Gaza. And I really am not just saying that. I mean, I really think that has to be done. But you don't think if Israel wanted to really pursue ethnic cleansing, they couldn't have done it before now? You don't think that this insanely powerful military that sits alongside Gaza, they couldn't begin ethnic cleansing in a much more aggressive way than however you see it happening now? You don't see that could have happened for years now? I mean, if you're really committed to ethnic cleansing, why not do it decades ago if you're Israel? They are being held to a higher standard than we hold most countries, than we hold our own country. And we should hold them to a high standard. Please don't misunderstand me. They hold themselves to a high standard in Israel, but it is completely unfair to characterize this as that. In my judgment, that doesn't, again, appreciate the texture of the situation. It is an awful situation. There are no good options, but I don't believe it's ethnic. And I understand that's the parade now. Everybody ethnic cleansing. But I do not believe that's what's going on. What is a city like Richmond that has enough issues as is passing of some ordinance about something international? I agree. This is what I consider virtue signaling on some level, but I don't even consider it a virtue. But the fact that they had to be pressured into recognizing what happened on October 7th, the attack carried out by Hamas in Israel, that makes me sick. And that's perverse political correctness or something. It's awful. I mean, Richmond, California, residents fearful to even walk their own streets after 7 p.m., says Delwood. I mean, this is a city in the San Francisco Bay Area, for those of you looking in who don't know the Bay Area. And it was a 5-1 vote. They talked through the night, ended at 1 a.m. They called for a ceasefire. And look, I'm again, you know where I sit on this. I sit in the place where everything's awful, because it is awful. But come on, guys. I just think it's a... And look, you know, libby libs, I'm with you on a lot of stuff, but I think your rhetoric has gotten out ahead of some of the facts. And I hate Netanyahu. And I hate the push to remove Palestinians from places they are in the West Bank. I hate the aggressive settlement program. People slaughtered, most of them were peaceniks. It's awful. And so the idea somehow that, you know, you have a city of Richmond passing this, screw you, city of Richmond. Worry about what's going on in the city of Richmond. Jewish students shelter in New York College library as pro-Palestine demonstrators pound on the door. I mean, this is the crap that this stuff begins to spawn. They're screaming "Free Palestine" as a group of Jewish students take shelter in a library at Cooper Union in New York. It's sickening. This is America where free speech, First Amendment, F that. You shouldn't be knifing Palestinian kids like that 6-year-old, that crazy dude who went after that 6-year-old and his mother. And you shouldn't be chasing Jewish students at Cooper Union in New York. What the hell is going on, man? It's gross. Meantime, in Law and Disorder, as we finish up, did you get the robbery thing I sent you, Albert, where there's an accident on the side of the road and then another car slows down and guys get out and they rob the victim of the accident on the freeway?
No.
You got it, right, Albert?
It's like you're down on your luck and then you're victimized on top of it.
Exactly. It's crazy. Here it is from Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
Grabs in retail stores, but yesterday on the 10 freeway, it was a different kind of smash and grab. All this was caught on camera by another driver. Look,
so here are the guys walking toward the...
to be a crew jumping out of a van on the side of the eastbound 10 at Crenshaw. They run up to the driver of another car who is kneeling on the shoulder with his hands in the air. They appear to rob that driver, then jump into another white car and take off. The person who shot this said the van and the black car were involved in a crash and continued for a while before pulling off to the side. The CHP says they are aware of the incident but have not gotten back to us with the details.
There you go. Isn't that crazy?
That's horrible.
I mean, that is just insanity.
No.
God. I mean, you know, you see this accident, you go, oh, there's an opportunity to, you know, to rob these people. Crazy.
Where's your heart?
Yeah. I did want to mention that apparently the dude who was on mushrooms and, you know, mentally unstable, and there is an ongoing problem in the airline industry. I was going to save this for Stories from the Sky, but just because I think it also falls into the category of Law and Disorder.
Right.
The reluctance on the part of people who are in the cockpit to speak out about mental challenges they may be having, psychological challenge might be a better way to put it. It's really tough. We literally do not have the ability to see a therapist, said one pilot. This is in the shadow of this off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot's alleged attempt to shut down the plane's engine. The guy said, we don't have the ability to see a counselor to get mental health treatment, to literally be human. He explained that the FAA has outdated policies. They haven't changed since the 1980s. And one of the biggest reasons for the growing pilot shortage is this. He said airlines are required by the FAA to fill out a form annually and list the doctors they've seen in the last 3 years, including therapists. But if you admit to seeing a therapist, you can be fired. Let's say a pilot loses a loved one, he said. They can't even see a grief counselor because that's responsible on that reportable, it's reportable on that form, and then they're grounded. So you've got two options. You either go get treatment and lie on a government form, that's essentially defrauding the government, punishable by revocation of certificates or civil penalty and jail time, or you just don't get treatment, he says. I feel like I'm being punished for being forthcoming and getting the help I felt I need. So it makes no logical sense, he says, to have aeromedical regulatory standards that are stuck in the 1980s. It is time for the airline industry to grow up. At least you would have some sense of transparency. That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are winding things down. It's been a delight to have everybody here. We've done a lot, and we're going to do even more tomorrow. The one thing I wanted to mention is where am I on time, Albert? Do I have time to read an email?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And we have a couple shout-outs. Pinky just $1 a day again.
What up, Pinky?
Big shout-out.
$1 a day, yeah. Particularly useful since we're being demonetized daily by all the bad news and talk of massacres and all the rest. Wes with $5. What up, Wes?
Big shout-out.
With a super sticker. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate that. This from Candace. Yeah, I did that. Jason, I got that before. Angry Beethoven. It's wild. Love that he's doing a podcast called Angry Beethoven. These are my Angry Beethovens right over here of my left arm. Big Angry Beethoven and Little Angry Beethoven, and maybe for the right price, I would rehome them. I would never part with my Angry Beethoven, please. I'm not doing that.
Why are you yelling?
Mark, I've been out of the country, so missed the anniversary celebration, says Candace. She sent this in an email. I've been a KGO listener since I was in high school, and my parents listened to Don Sherwood and Ray Taliaferro.
Yep.
I will never forget the day you went off the air. I can't listen to the song Money, Money without being reminded. Yeah, well, after we got off the air, for those who don't know, they played all these songs that had to do with money and gambling because that's what the station became. It became a sports gaming station. What a sad day. I kept pushing the buttons on my radio thinking something was wrong. But like a phoenix, you rose from the ashes and created something truly unique. I usually listen live and get my kitchen cleaned and prep for dinner, but when I can't, I love that I can listen to the podcast. Love Kim, Albert, and Tony, and all your guests.
Very cool.
Oh, and I can't forget Courtney.
Yeah.
Getting me hooked on true crime. I'm glad one of us is hooked on true crime. When you started, I became a Patreon member, and I dumped my Netflix monthly payment. Wow, that's cool.
Oh, wow.
I have won Mark's Madness a couple of times. That is super cool. Yeah, Candace, look at that, the picture of her in the T-shirt. The
shirt.
Mark's Madness first place champion. Come on. Commish,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, huh?
That's very cool, and that's an incredible feat. I think she was in the top 5. I think for a couple of the seasons, including a first place finish.
Yeah, exactly. She is. She's truly a champ. Like even when she didn't win, to finish top 5 is extraordinary. That many times.
Albert, thank you.
So I became a Patreon member. I dumped my Netflix monthly payment. I've won Mark's Madness a couple of times. I'm the person who complained about not receiving my trophy.
Yeah.
Albert, thank you.
Albert, thank you.
They're still in a box at Cumulus. No, don't hold your
It's
breath.
just disgusting what happened with that. A full investigation would have followed, but they've shooed us out of the building. I am getting over it, she said. Kind of. Sorry this is so long. Had too much Coachella Valley coffee. Anyway, congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. Keep up the good work. Candace Mick, everybody.
Really nice message. Yeah.
That is super, super cool. Thank you so much, Candace Mick.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
People like Candace Mick make it fun. So that really is great. Wow. Well, I don't know. That's the kind of thing that can keep me going till tomorrow.
Yeah.
The good feeling. I know the news can be a little bit on the bad side, but we try to get to some stuff that will give you a lighter feel. And tomorrow, Fridays, we do all the news in the first half hour, all the news from Florida in the second half hour, and then in the second hour, it's Michael Shore and Jim Avila talking about the politics of the new speaker, the future of this country as it faces some challenges in Ukraine, in the Middle East. There's a lot going on we can talk to those guys about. And then finally, of course, what to watch with the Culture Blaster. That's all tomorrow. Thank you for smashing the like button. And
Smashed it with your iron rod.
And I'm Shadow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
The After Party Live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
The After Party Live on the After Party Live channel next. Thanks, everybody. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.